Hi, HatMan here. I'm here to talk to you about one of my policies, and today that is the proactive housing campaign. So what I mean by proactive housing campaign is that first years will get a leaflet full of advice and information about housing and how to look for housing posted through their front doors in their halls. This won't just be advice though. This booklet will have information about the services the Guild offers. That might be things like Selly Watch, the Advice and Representation Centre, or ARC, Guild Lettings, or the Student Mentors. Why do I want to introduce this? Well, this policy stems back from something that came up in a conversation I had with a client at Guild Lettings, where she actually said to me that she thought the process is that you went to Selly Oak first, you got your house, and then you went to the Guild when something went wrong. She actually said the word when. I'd like to think that we're all a little bit more optimistic than that. Yeah. My feeling is that this is the wrong way round, that we should be going to the Guild first to get our advice, and then we can do it right when we go to Selly Oak to let houses. And I think on the whole, people tend to agree with me when I explain to them what services the Guild offers, as whether it be a client or a friend, they say that they would use it. It's just they didn't know that it existed up until I mentioned it. So that's really what I'm trying to do with this bit of policy. The other thing is I feel that although there's been a good amount of work done on it in the last year, is that the way the housing campaign has historically worked isn't really adequate for what the student body wants it to be. So traditionally it used to be an evening event that first years actually had to make the effort to go out to do, and it really showed quite a poor attendance because first years didn't want to have to go to the Guild in the evening when they wouldn't normally go. So something that Jack Mabley, the current VPHC, did was that he made this into an all-day event, and you can drop in and out of it, whether you've got lectures or whether you're popping into university to meet mates for lunch or something. And this has worked really well. Last year's housing campaign was massively successful, and we've had a lot of people use the Guild services as a result. And what this piece of policy would be is the step up from that, in that the first years would get all the basic information in the booklet through their doors, and then they'd come to the fair if they wanted to get something a bit more specialised, or if they wanted to talk to someone about what's in the booklet. What do I want the results of this to be? Well, I think the obvious thing is it would make house hunting easier for everyone, in particular the first years. You'd have all the house hunting advice in this booklet that's literally given to you, so you can go out into Selly Oak, you know what you have to look for and what you have to avoid, and it just makes everything a lot less stressful. But that's not really the only thing this is trying to achieve, as this is my main policy, and I think that if done right, we could get a lot of good out of it. During housing community campaigns, there's always a lot of talk about doing crackdowns on bad landlords or disreputable agents, and this is actually quite difficult to do because the Guild doesn't necessarily have control over the companies that are in Selly Oak. But what the Guild does have access to is the market, which is you, the letters. We actually have access to that before the companies do, and I think it's our responsibility to make use of that. Essentially, what the result of this would be is with the letting clientele being more canny and more aware of what to look for, what to avoid, and what sort of things to listen for when going on viewings, is that they would be able to identify bad landlords or disreputable agents. The final result of this would be that the agencies and landlords that aren't up to scratch would end up losing business because we become a cannier student body who knows what to look out for. And it would force them to change their ways because they're losing our business because we're not falling for their tricks. The letting season overall would just become nicer for everyone. There's a second thing that I want this policy to do, and that is exposure to a lot of the services. So I'm going to be going over this more in a later video, but I think a lot of problems that people flag up about Selly Oak, the Guild actually has mechanisms in place or services in place that can solve it. The problem is people just don't know enough about things like Junk Busters or Selly Watch for them to be as effective as they could be. And what these booklets would do is, by telling the students about them, is there would be more awareness of them and they'd be able to function more. and have more members, and therefore get more money to fund projects they're trying to do. So that's the reason why I'm introducing this policy. What do you think? Tell me in the comments or tweet me at #GuildHatman. And until next video, keep your thinking hats on.